finally, we're going to get our hands on to some data today. But what I want you all to do first is create a folder on either the flash drive that you have for the class or your desktop and call it something like data class. So we'll do that right here. New folder, data class. All right. And you can store this wherever you want, but make sure you always have access to it because we're going to be saving a lot of data here and reusing it later on. Now, inside the folder, create another folder and either label it today's date or label it the class number, anything that you want, just to make sure that you can access the data and you'll know where it came from. In other words, it's not from several months ago. You'll know what class it came from. Now, once you have the folders created, go online because I posted 4 text files and 1 PDF. The text files are called Charlotte Nonprofits, Charlotte Salaries, Mecklenburg Salaries, and North Carolina Employees. The PDF is called North Carolina Employees Record Layout. Download those files and save them inside the today's date folder or whatever you name that folder. You want to save them there because we'll be working with them throughout today's class, and we may even return to them later on to do some more data analysis. So make sure you remember where you stored them. Now that we have our data saved so we can access it later, let's talk about what we're going to be learning today. The main thing that I want to teach you all how to do is how to import data into Excel. In other words, how to take it from one format and load it into a spreadsheet. Now, once it's in a spreadsheet, we'll be able to sort and filter it, which I'll also show you today. Now, importing is super important because you can know all the queries and all the functions in the world, but if you don't know how to get the data properly into an Excel worksheet, then what good is knowing all that information? Now, there are some common ways to bring in data into an Excel worksheet. Here they are. Actually, you can copy and paste a lot of data into worksheets. That's super easy and super helpful. You can also grab data directly from the web. But the 2 most popular ways of getting data into an Excel sheet are importing it from a delimited text file and importing it from a fixed width text file. And I'll go over each of those steps with you today. Feel free to follow along because I'm going to post the data and the websites that we're going to be referencing. Or you can watch the video and go back to the websites and the data later to see if you can import the information on your own. Here are the first 2 websites that we're going to be copy and pasting data from. So you might want to grab these links right now and put them into a web browser to look at them as we go along. The first one involves coal mine fatalities from 1990 to 2018, and it's from the Mine Safety and Health Administration. And the second one is about violent crimes in Mecklenburg County, 1985 through 2014, and it's from the federal government as well. Okay, let's take a look at MSHA's data. And this could be really helpful. Say, for instance, that a miner died near your town, and you wanted to put that into perspective. How often do miners die? Well, here's data with all coal fatalities going back more than 100 years. And you can see on the left-hand side, it starts with the year. It gives a number of miners and also the number of fatalities, and it continues. Year, miners, fatalities, year, miners, fatalities, etc. Now, this information is helpful, but unfortunately, it's on a web page where we can't really analyze it. You see? It's all static. So what we'd want to do as data reporters is throw it into Excel. So let's grab that MSHA data directly from Excel. Now, most of you all probably have worked with Excel and have it on your desktop or in your downloads, but if you don't know where it is, here's an easy way to find it. You go into your search box down at the bottom and you just start typing in Excel, and hopefully you all already have it downloaded. If you don't, contact Campus IT. Students get the Microsoft package for free. They'll load it onto your computer. So let's open up a workbook. Now, you may have a different version of Excel and things might look slightly different. If you do, that's fine. You can still follow along, obviously. But if you have any questions, obviously get in touch with me. So I'm going to open up a blank workbook. Here we go. This is Excel. And what we want to do is grab the MSHA data. Okay, to do that, it's simple because remember, we're just learning how to copy and paste data into Excel right now. So what I'm going to do is navigate back to the Mind Vitality web page. Bring it up. Here it is. And I'm going to simply select all the data. Just like that. Control C for the PC users, Command C for the Mac users. I'm going to go back to Excel and I'm going to paste it in. There we go. Now you can see the data is there. We can manipulate it like this. We can search it. We can clean it up, analyze it. And this is a great tool for reporters to use. A simple copy and paste, but the data is now away from a web page and in a format where we want it and we can analyze it. Let's try that again. Name this sheet Mind Data, right? And name the next sheet by double clicking on it Crime Data. Right? Now let's navigate to the second web link that I provided on the PowerPoint. There now. And this is UCR crimes from the FBI. And I'm interested in Charlotte's. So Charlotte doesn't have quite over 1 million people. So click on 500,000 to 990,000 population. Then click Next. Navigate down to Charlotte, North Carolina, CMPD, and also click on the number of violent crimes. So we have both CMPD and the number of violent crimes highlighted, and then click Get Table. Remember, data folks love that Get Table because that means data is coming there. So here's the crime reports for Charlotte during the years 1985 to 2014. You can see it scroll down. So let's try this again. Simply copy and paste this data into the other Excel spreadsheet. Grab the headers if you want. You might not want to grab the headers because look, when I scroll onto the headers, this part, violent crime and the number table, also highlights. So I'm not going to grab the headers. I'm just going to grab up to 1985, copy, go back to Excel into my second sheet. In this case, I'm going to paste it into the second row because I want to put my headers in the first row. Control V, pasting the data in. Now you can include the headers. So this was year, months reported. I think the next was population, etc. Now you can fill in all the other columns. So after population, it was violent crime, then it was murder, then legacy rape, revised rape, robbery, and aggravated assault. There we go. Now if you haven't used Excel all that much, a simple thing to spread out the columns. You see how the columns sort of bleed into each other? Month reported, you can't read the whole word. Same thing with population. Click the little box between the A and the 1. Your data should highlight. Then go to the line right between A and B, or B and C, C and D. It doesn't matter, but you should get that little cross with the arrows pointing in each direction. Double click on that. There we go. See how that automatically spread out our columns? And you can do it individually if you want. I can grab it, I can make the column bigger. But that's the way to make the columns so they fit the header and the data in it. There we go. Two easy ways just to simply copy and paste data into a format that as reporters we can now analyze and look at. Now you can also grab data directly from a website without copying and pasting the data in. So let's check that out. Navigate to this website right here, Shark Attacks by State. Open it up. And here's that link. It's from the University of Florida. And if you scroll down, you see a map of shark attacks, where they happen. 67 in North Carolina. And if you scroll down even further, you see this. It's aggregate data of the number of shark attacks by state, and it's unprovoked shark attacks from 1837 to present. Right? So since 1837, there are 828 shark attacks in Florida, 162 in Hawaii, and so on. Right? So let's copy this link, select all, Control C, and navigate to a blank Excel document. Here we go. Now what we want to do is import data directly from this website. So to do that, you go to Data and either Get Data or From Web. So Get Data from Web, click on that, and a pop-up box will appear, and it'll ask you to paste in the location of your data. Mine's taking a second, but we'll see what we get. Okay, here it is. It's a paste your URL right here, Control V, and there's our URL. All right, click OK. And I should note that it's important that your cell A1 is highlighted because that's where you want to start your data. Okay, and it's popping up, and you'll see that you may get this view. No items selected, right? Or nothing in our preview. That's fine because look, if you click on Web Preview, there's a preview of our website, right? And now if you click on our table, that's what this is, it's called a table, click on our website, you'll see it highlights a little bit, as does this table 0. So click on the table that we want to import, and then go down here and click Load. And this may take a second, but what it's doing is it's importing that table that we saw online into Excel. And there you have it. 21 rows were loaded, and we'll X this out. And a couple things. I'm going to spread this out as well. But a couple things. One, you can see that when it imported, it came with some banding to it. And that's alright. We can get rid of the banding. And we can also get rid of the filter. So let's see if we can do that. Maybe go to, let's get rid of the filter first. And to do that, click anywhere on the header. And then click Home. And then click Sort and Filter. The filter is automatically turned on. We're going to turn it off by clicking Filter again. So Home, Sort and Filter, Filter, and there we go. We got rid of our filter box right up there. And also if you click on a header, then click on Table Design, and you can see the green and white's already selected. That's fine, but honestly I like to make it all clean and just get rid of all of it. So I'm going to scroll all the way up to the top and over to the left. There, I got rid of the banding, I got rid of the filter. So I just have my data. And we can check it out. Like the website said, there are 828 unprovoked shark attacks in Florida since 1837. There were 6 in Massachusetts. And if you scroll all the way down, Maryland had 1, as did Maine, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. So that was easy. I mean, it was only 22 rows, including the header. We could have typed it all in. Maybe we could have copied and pasted it. But grabbing data directly from the website is saves a bunch of time, and more importantly, we know it's accurate. Because if we had to manually type in all these records, you never know. We could introduce mistakes into our data. So that's copying and pasting directly from the web. So we covered copying and pasting data into a workbook, and we covered importing it from a website. But 9 times out of 10, the data, if it doesn't come to you in an actual Excel sheet, it's going to come to you as a text file. And more often than not, it's going to be a delimited text file. Now, we're going to go over 2 different examples of a delimited text file. We're going to look at comma delimited files and tab delimited files. And I also have here the steps to import the data. So if you need to review it, feel free to click back on the PowerPoint. And I'll also post how-tos online as the semester goes on. But we're going to import data from a text file into an Excel spreadsheet. Now do me a favor and go to the folder that you created earlier in the class and double click on the file called Charlotte Salaries right here. And you should get a text file pop up and look something like this. This is in Notepad, and this is what a text file pops up as, and this is the data that we'll eventually analyze, but you can see how jumbled it looks. And what this data is salaries for every Charlotte employee, public employee, this past year. Right? This is a comma delimited text file. Now how do I know that? Well, if you look closely at it, you can see that each column, we can't tell right away, but each column is separated by a comma. This is the first column, name, comma, unit, comma, job title, comma, salary, comma, hourly, comma, etc. And you can even scroll down a little bit and look at the person's first name, Adam Freeman, and of course that's separated by a comma. Charlotte Department of Transportation, again, separated by a column. So what this is going to tell Excel, it's going to say, hey Excel, every time you see a comma in this data set, create a new column when you import it. And that way it'll line up nice and easy into our Excel worksheet. So on back to our Excel worksheet, and again we have the mine data, the crime data, the shark data. And I'm going to save this workbook and then open up a new one so we can import the Charlotte Salaries. So go to File, Save As, and I'm going to browse to my flash drive. I'm going to browse to the right class, and I'm going to save it as data import. Data import. Save. I'm going to exit out. So that file is saved. Now I'm going to open up a new Excel workbook because I want the Charlotte Salaries to be by itself. So search for Excel if you haven't already. And open up a new workbook right there. Now to get data from a text file into an Excel file, go to Data, again, Get Data, but in this case we don't want it from the web, we want it from text or CSV. Now CSV is a text file that looks like an Excel file, we'll go over them later, but we know it's a text file because we already opened up, so click Text. Now navigate to where you saved the data. Here it is, Charlotte Salaries. Click Import. Now depending on what version of Excel you have, your screen may look a little bit different. You might have boxes to check what type of delimiter this is. It might be tab, it might be semicolon, etc. But either way, you look for where it says delimiter because that means what separates each column. And because we looked at it in a text file already, we know that a comma separates each column, and Excel is pretty good at guessing what the delimiter is. So all we do now, click Load. There we go. This saying is loaded 7,429 rows. Perfect, we didn't get any errors. I'm going to close that box out. And again, I'm going to get rid of the color pattern and the filter. So follow along with me. Under Design Table, I'm going to click Clear. And to get rid of the filter, remember you highlight any column name, you go to Home, Sort and Filter, Filter. Here's our data. What looked jumbled and a mess as a text file looks really clean as an Excel file, and let's inspect it just in case. Now I don't see any names bleeding over into number columns or any numbers bleeding over into name columns, and plus I didn't get any errors, so that makes me even more comfortable with it. And there we go. 7,430. Remember, the first column is actually the header, so you subtract one, so it's 7,429 rows of data. And there it is. Super easy to get into Excel. Well, I'm going to label this one Charlotte Salaries. And you notice down here I put an underscore between Charlotte and Salaries, and actually the city does as well. Job underscore title, hourly rate. That's important, not necessarily for Excel, but when we start learning SQL, it's important not to have blanks. So get in the habit of whenever you create a title or a document to do first word, underscore, second word, etc. Now I'm going to show you one quick thing, and it's super easy, but a lot of times you get data and you don't need it all. So first thing I would do is, let's save this file, because you never want to mess with an original Excel document because you're bound to screw up and then you realize that you're working with bad data. So I'm going to save this data. I'm going to go browse back to my folder. Data class. And I'm going to save this as Charlotte underscore salaries, and I'm going to put original. So I know this is my original data. Save. Now I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to open my folder back up. I'm going to take this, copy, and paste it. And I'm going to rename this one Charlotte Salaries. Now you want to guess on why I did that? Because I can work with this data right here, Charlotte Salaries, and no matter how many times I screw it up, I always have the original to go back to. Right? The original one is I'm not going to touch. So let's open up Charlotte Salaries. Sometimes you get this enable content, that's fine, just click it off. And also sometimes you get more columns than you'll actually need. I typically never want to delete records, but sometimes you have to, so I'm going to show you how. To delete a record, just highlight the column. In this case, I'm going to delete the FID column. I think that's a personal ID for each employee. I'll highlight it, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to click delete. There. Now that column's gone, which is good. The bad thing is it's gone forever, so if I ever wanted it back, I'd have to go and look at my Charlotte Salaries original data. So that's how we get data in a comma delimited text file into Excel. Let's see how we get data as a tab delimited text file into Excel. It's going to be the exact same way, but practice makes perfect, so let's do it again. I'm going to save this file. Close it out, and I'm going to take a look at the Charlotte nonprofits. Open up that text file. There you go. You can see that it looks a lot like the other data we looked at. It's not quite as long, still, I wouldn't want to handwrite all this, right? And on top of that, I don't see any commas in between the different potential columns, right? But as a data reporter, you'll get used to this, because what I do see are tabs. Tab there, a tab in between organization and organization type, tab between type and title, etc. And you can also make out people's names. So this data is how much Charlotte area nonprofit leaders are paid. Now, nonprofit data is public in part because the nonprofits, they file forms with the IRS, so that opens up their salaries to reporters. And in this case, David Cirillo of the Inspiration Network, it's a religious organization. He's the president. I got it from a Form 990 in 2016. Again, that's the IRS form. And here's his salary. Not bad, huh? Jeez Louise, $819,000 annually for leading a nonprofit. But again, we can't really manipulate this data as a text file. So let's open up a new Excel file and import it. I'm going to close it out. And I'm going to open up Excel. A new workbook. This is just going to be like importing a comma delimited text file, but this one, because we already looked at it, and because you know, I got so many years being a data reporter, I can tell that it's tab delimited. So click on A1 if your cursor isn't there already, because we want the data to line up top and on the left. Data from text or CSV, and navigate to the file wherever you saved it as, whether it be your desktop or your downloads or a flash drive. Data. Charlotte nonprofits. Import. And again, Excel is pretty darn smart, because you can see up top it already selected tab delimited. Alright, and if it didn't, then you can click on tab, or you can click on comma. These are the options it gives us: colon, comma, equal sign, and then you can do a custom if you want to make your own delimiter, which is always fun, by the way. So I'm going to stick with tab. It looks clean so far, and I'm going to load the data. Okay, we got 51 rows that were added, no errors, so I'm going to close that box. And I'm going to get rid of the color padding, and I'm going to get rid of the filters. There we go. Beautiful, huh? It went from that messy looking text file into a clean Excel file. I'm going to scroll down just to make sure that the data looks like it imported properly. I didn't get any errors. There's my 51. Remember, the first line is a header, and there's the salary. So the top 50 nonprofit leaders in the Charlotte area, the 50th worst paid, made $294,000. Not bad, huh? Now let's play around with this data just a little bit, right? And I'm going to add an underscore between total and compensation. You can see organization type already has it. Okay, so let's play around just real quick, and let's talk about formatting. Formatting for data is super important. And you can click on a column, and to format it, you have home, which is already selected. Then you have a box right here under, or above I should say, the word number. And this says what type of format it currently has. So in this case, it's a general format, which is fine. Usually names or words have formats called general or text. scroll down and see if I can find text. There it is. There's text. But general's fine. What we might want to change, we don't have to, but you see the total compensation, how much money these guys are earning. Right now, it's in a general format, right? Now we can change it to number, and this will allow us to add and subtract and do calculations. You can see the numbers didn't really change, but what it did is add 2 decimal points. And we can get rid of them by clicking this little arrow, because you don't need those decimal points. But if you didn't want the number, and because we're looking at salaries, you can go back up to the format box, click currency. There we go. There's decimal points popped up again. Let's get rid of them again. There. That might be a little bit cleaner. All right. Now let's save this. Actually, I'm going to do File Save As, because I want to put it in my folder. Save As, Browse. Browse to your data folder. And I'm going to call this Charlotte Nonprofits Original. Save. Close it out. And right away, I'm going to right-click, copy, right-click, paste, and now I have a Charlotte Nonprofits that I can work with, I can analyze, and I don't have to worry about screwing it up because I already have a backup. Right? So that's how easy it is to get data into an Excel sheet as a delimited text file. Like I said, reporters. Now, one way to analyze data is to sort and filter it. 2 easy steps in Excel. Sorting essentially lets you rank data from high to low, from A to Z, etc. Filter lets you cut out specific aspects of the data, which you can copy and paste into another worksheet and then run your analysis just off that data that you cut out. Now let's go over how to sort and filter. Now I'm back at our Charlotte Nonprofit data. Not the original, I have that saved away so I can't screw anything up, but here's the copy that I have. And while I'm at it, I'm going to rename this to Charlotte Nonprofit Salaries. Okay? And you can see again, I have the name of the person, his or her organization, the type of organization, the title that he or she has, where I got the data from, and how much he or she was paid. Now, an easy step in Excel is sorting data. Say this data was all jumbled up and it didn't come as cleanly as it did with the highest amount first, right? To sort data, you do a couple key steps, and I put them in the PowerPoint, so feel free to refer to that. And I'm also going to send out information, obviously, online. But a key step to sorting data is to click anywhere in your data. So highlight a cell and then select all. Control A, or I believe Command A for the Mac users. So you can see everything is selected and it ends where the data ends. You can also select all by clicking up here. But you see the problem with that? It selects every cell there is, not just where the data is. So I don't like doing that. I like clicking in any cell, Control A, select all. Now this is important when you sort data, and I'll tell you why in a second. But to sort data, select all, go to Home if you haven't already, sort and filter, custom sort. And this gives you the options. Sort by, if you click on that drop down box, you get the headers. So in this case, I want to sort by, say, total compensation. right? And it automatically links it smallest to largest, but I can also do largest to smallest or custom load. I'm going to click this time smallest to largest. Click OK. There you go, your data changed real quick, and I can scroll over, and there the smallest earner is on top, and you can see Mr. Cirillo is down at the bottom as the highest earner. There he is. Now this is really helpful if you have hundreds of thousands of records and it's not organized in any way. Sorting it is really easy. Now you can also sort it by, say, organization type. So again, I'm going to select all, custom sort, rather than total compensation. Say I just wanted to get a glance at what types of organizations are in this data. Organization type. You'll notice it doesn't say small to large anymore because the organization type column, it's not a number or a currency format. It's a text or a general format. So it says A to Z, which is fine. I could do it backwards if I want by going Z to A, but I'm going to stick with A to Z. Click OK. Then scroll up to the top. See, I have one blank record. Why don't we kill that record off? All right, it's data that wasn't there. It wasn't there when we imported it. So I'm going to highlight that row by clicking on the number 2. I'm going to right click. I'm going to put delete. That shifts everything up. Just like we deleted the old column in the other spreadsheet, you can delete rows. So this, you'll see, it's ordered by organization type. Country clubs are up top. Then you have Duke, others, religion, schools, YMCA. And it's no longer sorted by how much someone has earned. All right. So that's sorting. And while we're at it, let's look at filtering. All right. Say I was curious with just how much people associated with school nonprofits earned. Now what I could do is highlight these records right here and copy and paste them and look at them that way. But if this is hundreds of thousands of records, you don't want to do that. What you want to do is filter. So to filter data, again, this is on the PowerPoint, and I'm going to send out information on it. But to filter data, click on any of the headers. In this case, I'm going to click on name. Click on home if you're not there already. Sort and filter. Filter. You'll notice that the filter drop-downs pop up. Remember they were there when we imported some of the data? They pop up there. All the columns have it. Now, in this case, I'm just interested in nonprofits associated with schools, and that was under organization type. So click that drop down, and you can see all the organization types right here. I'm going to deselect all, and I'm going to select just school. Click OK. There you go. The rest of the data vanished. I'm just left with schools, but don't worry, this data is still there. All right? It's just hidden. But I want to now analyze just school data. So I'm going to select all, again with my cursor anywhere in the data. Select all, and actually what I'm going to do in this case, I'm going to put your cursor in one of the headers. Then do select all, because I want to grab the header as well. And then copy it. Control C. You can see it has the moving bars. And go down to another worksheet. Open that up. And paste the data in there. Control V. There we go. Now label this one schools. See, now I can do my analysis on this data and not worry about the other data if I wasn't interested in the other types of nonprofits. And again, if I was interested to see who made the most, I can do exactly what I did before for sorting the data. Control A, select all, sort and filter, custom sort, compensation. I don't want to do smallest to largest. I want to do largest to smallest. Okay. So Mark Reed, Charlotte Country Day School. He's the head of the school. I got it from Form 990 in 2017. He makes more than $557,000. There we go. That's sort and filter. And the last thing I would do is, this is my main data, and I want to keep it around, and I don't want it just to say the schools. So I'm going to go back up to my filter, and I can either select all again, or I can go to sort and filter and just turn the filter off. And there you go. All my data is back. I didn't lose anything. In fact, what I did is I gained a new tab with just schools. I'm going to save this. What I'm going to show you now is how to import data from another type of text file, and this one is called a fixed width text file. Here are directions to import a fixed width text file, and the file that we're going to eventually import is called North Carolina _employees, and we'll take a look at that in a second. But here are the steps to import, just in case you need to reference them. Now do me a favor and open up the text file that we downloaded at the beginning of the class called NC_employees. Let's take a look at that. This is actually a large file, close to 200,000 records, I believe. This looks better than our original file, doesn't it? It doesn't look as jumbled. You can sort of see where each column would line up. And this one, you'll notice I'm scrolled all the way up the top, but I don't see any sort of headers. All right, so we'll have to add the headers separately. And fixed width text files, even though they look great and they're somewhat easy to import, they're actually not as easy as a delimited text file. So let's open up another Microsoft Excel document, and let's import this North Carolina employees file. And to do that, you're also going to have to open up the North Carolina record layout PDF. That's the other file that you downloaded. Here it is. I'm going to rotate it. It pops up. This is the record layout. Remember, we went over those in other classes, and we learned that what each field name translates into. Appointment type is values, age is the age based on current date, etc. So that's a record layout. And what I want to do is either print this out and have it next to me on my desk, which I would recommend that you do, or in this case, I'm going to see if I can line up the record layout next to my Excel document so I can show you what I'm talking about when I import a fixed width file. So let me do that. So what I have here is a blank Excel document, a new one that I opened, scrunched up next to my record layout. And again, normally I would print this out, but I wanted to show them side by side as I walk through how to import a fixed width file. All right? So click on A1, Data, Get Data. In this case, because it's scrunched up, I have to click on From File and then Text CSV. Right, and you can follow along. Navigate to where you saved the North Carolina employees file. There it is. Click Import. Now you can see that Excel is actually smart enough to know that it's a fixed width file. You can tell right there the delimiter is fixed width. And it's somewhat smart in that it sort of lined up some of the columns. You can see the department is in a good field. Looks like the person's name is in a field. The status of their employment. But if you scroll over here, column 5 you can tell is messed up. It has a bunch of numbers, then it says summer intern, then a bunch more numbers, then public information, separation, etc. And this is where our record layout comes in hand, right? Because we want more columns than that. I'm going to scoot this over if possible. Okay. Scoot this over. I apologize, but since it's not printed out, this is what I'm going to show you. Okay, this is the record layout next to my column. And what this says right here is where I want each column to begin. In other words, I want to draw a line at the 0 point, 0 characters, right here. And then I want to draw a line, Excel says, at the 40 characters. So Excel is literally counting 40 characters over and making a line. And then it's counting 40 more characters over. In this case it would be 80, and drawing another line. And then so on and so on. Right? And some versions of Excel, and you may have them, you actually have to click on a line in the data to draw the characters. Not in this version. This is a newer one, or this is, I just type where I want each line to go. Let's see if I can make sense with this. Okay. Look at your record layout. It's saying that draw a line at the 40 character mark, which they already have. Perfect. Then it says draw a line at the 80 character mark. They already have. Perfect. 110. Perfect. This is where it got screwed up. So from here on, I have to type in each of these character marks so Excel knows where to draw the next line. So after 110, it's 112, 122, and so on. 132, 140, 180, 220, 230. Now let me scroll down over here to get the rest. So after 230 goes, oops. After 230, let me get my cursor in the right spot. Goes 290. There you go. And before I actually import the data, I'd want to double check this. So real quick glance at your numbers. 393, 393, 390, 75, 60, 300, 290, 230, 220, 180. And the reason you want to do this is you don't want to spend all that time importing the data if you don't have it properly marked. So after 220, 180, 40, 32. And believe it or not, this is a small spreadsheet. Sometimes you get thousands and thousands of columns. And if you do this and spend half a day and you realize you're off a couple points, it's disheartening to start all over. So 122, 112, 110, 40, and 80. Okay, I think I got it right. So again, I'm in Fix With, and I'm telling Excel at what character point to draw a line. And I learned that from the record layout where it says position, ending position right there. So let's click Load. And then load again. There you go. Now I'm going to spread this out. This should show you my data. It says I have 8 errors. Let's investigate that. Sometimes errors aren't to be too much concerned about, and in this case I can glance at it and look at it's not anything to be concerned about, because it looks like it's just reading nulls where the data is assuming that it should not be null. You know, if this was a bunch of asterisks and sort of a bunch of gobbledygook, then I'd be concerned about. So I'm going to click close and load right there, and I'm going to X that out. So here's my data. Took a little bit longer than importing it as a delimited text file, but you can see all the records that I have. Much better than just looking at it as a text file. 209,000 records. All right. And the one thing that we'll have to do with this data is first I'm going to get rid of the color banding, just like I always do. And I'm going to get rid of the filters. If I click on a header, click on home, click off filter, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename the columns. And I can look back at my record layout to find out what the columns are named. I work with this data all the time, so I have a pretty good understanding what it is. So bear with me and do it yourself as well, because we'll be working with this data. So rename the columns. And notice that I abbreviate some instead of writing an original hire date. I just abbreviate that. But I know what my abbreviations are, so it'll still make sense to me. Again, I abbreviated that one. Sorry, this takes forever, but it's something necessary. And I scroll over, and this is an extra column. It's probably where the errors came in, so I'm just going to delete it. Highlight, right click, delete. Now before I do anything else, what do I want to do? I want to save this. Save it as an original before I screw around with it. So File, Save As, Browse, navigate to where you saved everything else. And I'm going to name it NC employees, original. It's saving up top. Saved. Close it out. Here's my record layout that I don't need anymore right yet, so I'm going to minimize that. Go back into it and copy it right away. Because I want to work with it. I'm just going to rename it NC Employees. There. I hope you're able to follow along with this because I want to work with this data a little bit. You'll notice that Excel takes a little while to open up larger files. Okay. This is open. I'm going to spread out the columns, highlighting it all. And there we are. We took that mess of a text file, loaded 209,000 records into our data, and you'll notice at the very end, I want to point this out, position county. These are county codes. So 92, I know off the top of my head that means Wake County. So I'd have to get a code sheet to update this. And every time I see 92, I write Wake County. Or every time I see likely 1, I'd put Alamance County, and so on. But that's where not just a record layout, but a code sheet would come in hand. Now, I'm going to do a couple little things that we've already went over before. I'm going to change this to currency. I'm going to get rid of in this case, I'm going to keep the decimals because some people are obviously part-time workers and are paid hourly. So I'm going to keep that. And I want to do a little bit of sorting. So let's sort the data. Let's see who of all North Carolina employees earns the most. Remember how to sort? First thing, click in the data, Control A to highlight everything. Now if you did not highlight everything, and if you went and sorted on your current salary, that would be bad, because what that would do is just sort this column and nothing else. So it would mess all your numbers up. It would put salaries with the wrong people. So you need to select all. Sort and filter, custom sort, and there are all my new field names. And I want to see current salary, largest to smallest. Let's see who makes the most in North Carolina. I doubt he or she makes more than Mr. Cirillo, that's for sure. Okay, $387,000. Let's find out more about that person. He was in the State Treasurer's Office. Kevin Sigrist, full-time, he's 58. He was originally hired, and this is a date field, so he was originally hired, it looks like in 2013. We'll learn how to clean up the dates later in the course. You'll notice that the position number and title are blank. That's because once a person leaves the office, the state scrubs that data. And this person's a new hire, and you can see that his or her data is there. But a little bit more about the top earner. His last salary increase was in 2017. That's probably when he left. And I can look back here, and it says last public information action. So he left the state in July 2017. And his last raise was $1,000. And again, $387,000. So we go. We got data on all North Carolina public employees employed by the state. I'm going to save this. And say I only wanted to grab people who work for the Department of Public Safety. how would I do that? That would be filtering, right? So I'm going to rename this sheet. I'm going to call it NC employees, because this is all my data. I'm going to end up pasting my new data into here. So let's filter for just North Carolina public safety people. And these are people, the highway patrolmen and women and the correctional officers within the prison system. So remember to filter, click in a header, sort and filter, filter, that turns the filtering on. There, there, there. In this case, I just want public safety folks. So I'm going to click down that drop down box and deselect all to start with. Let's see if I can find public safety. The Observer has done a lot of stories on the prison system, so this will be helpful for my stories that I work on. Click OK, and there you go. All I have right now are people who work for public safety. Now I might want to analyze this later on, so I'm going to Control A, Control C. You can see once I copy it, the moving bars appear. I'm going to paste it into my second sheet, Control V. Now you see what I did? This is, you could use this, right? But what's wrong right up here? I don't have a header, right? And I can tell you why. I clicked anywhere in the data, and if you copy a filter by clicking anywhere in the data, it does not grab the header. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to delete that by right-clicking on the arrow, delete, and go back to here, my original filter. Again, it's just North Carolina public safety employees. I'm going to scroll to the top, and because I want to also copy the header, I'm going to click on a header. Now Control A, Control C. Again, you got the moving bars. Let's see if this works. Control B. There we go. Much better. This way I don't have to retype the headers or copy and paste them in individually. I'm going to rename this Public Safety. Okay. Now for the heck of it, let's find out who's paid the most for public safety and who's paid the least. Now I don't even have to sort this. At least I don't think I do, because it was already sorted in my original data. So 285,000 is the earner who had the highest, and that was Brian Shetman. And the least, if I wanted to sort it at the least, I could just scroll down, but I'm going to do a custom sort. I'm going to scroll down to salary, current salary, smallest to largest, and there. Actually, $0. Chances are he's a retiree. A lot of people had $0. Person, $1. Now this is something that likely it's not a mistake in the data, but there's probably a caveat. So no way in heck would I write a story saying that Dendrick Gamble was paid $1. See, he's from the National Guard. That's probably just a filler. National Guard, I think, are usually volunteers. But again, that's how to sort and filter data. Let's do it one more time. And let's filter by several different characteristics. I'm going to get rid of this filter first. And by doing that, I'm going to turn the filter, clear the filter right there. Turn it off. Scroll all the way up to the top. And to turn it off, just click filter. There you go. I got all 209,000 records back, not just public safety. Say I wanted to filter it on new hires for the Department of Health and Human Services and the judicial branch. All right, so I want to put a couple different filters in there. How would I do that? Well, I see my departments right here, right? So I probably want to grab that column. And if I'm looking at just new hires, might be under appointment type. Let's see. Or this would be better. Last public information action. So I'm going to filter the data on those three caveats. Turn your filter back on by clicking on a header, filter. There we go. And again, I said just Health and Human Services and the judicial branch. So just select all and turn on just the two that you want. And again, I can select 15 of these filters or I can select one, doesn't matter. And I said the judicial branch. Okay. There's one filter. You'll see that Health and Human Services are all first. And if we scroll far enough down, we get the judicial branch people as well. Now if I also wanted to filter on just new hires because I'm curious about how much they're making, I go to last public information action, that column, use the drop down, deselect all, and look for new hire. There we go. Now I started out with like 209,000 records. I'm going to copy and paste all this data into a new spreadsheet. Let's see how many records I now have. Select all, copy, Control V, paste it in. Now these are just new hires for Health and Human Services and the judicial branch, and I went from 209,000 records, give or take, to 1,361. Remember, one column or one row is my header. But that's sort and filtering, and that's importing data. And this is just the beginning of my data analysis. I can rename this one New Health and Human Services, Judicial, and I can sort and filter the data 100 different times depending on what story that I want to write. Am I looking at how much new hires are paid in different departments? Am I looking at how much the top earners make compared to the least paid? How much correctional officers make? Have salaries increased over time if I had this data over year after year? But that's the power of Excel. A lot of records that originally came to us as an ugly, ugly text file, either a delimited text file or a fixed width text file. Your first taste of data journalism, taking a text file and bringing it into an Excel. How do you feel? You feel good about it? Intimidated? Let me know if you have any concerns or if you had any glitches walking through the lesson with me. Also, check out some homework. Okay, that last file that you had downloaded at the beginning of class was called Mecklenburg Salaries. It's just like the Charlotte salary data that we looked at. Import that data into an Excel sheet and answer these questions below. Keep checking online for any kind of postings or announcements or updates, and let me know if you have any questions. Guys, I really hope that you enjoy this. This is what I enjoy. And let's move forward and look for a great year. Take care.